Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars, and welcome to my review for the 9th episode of Season 3's The Grand Tour. And this episode is called Aston, Astronauts and Angelina's Children. A very creative title indeed this week. Now, this week's episode, I shall be honest, is probably my least favourite of Season 3 so far. That's not to say that it's a bad episode, it's just my least favourite. It certainly was entertaining at times. However, I found it a little bit too staged at times, especially the end segment, and the mini historical documentary that James May covered I didn't find particularly interesting. However, we shall get started. And what did we get in this week's episode? Well, at the start of the episode you get Richard Hammond, who was able to test drive the brand new Aston Martin V8 Vantage, and as you can imagine it was a wonderful car in every way, and he had a really good test drive in that, and it looks an absolutely staggeringly beautiful car. And then they did the usual, Abby took it for a test drive around the Ebola ring, see where it got on the in regards to its track time. Now, after that, it went straight into Conversation Street, and Conversation Street is always good, and it was pretty good again this week, pretty funny, and probably, arguably, the highlight of the show, Conversation Street. Then it went on to like the mini documentary, and it was James May, and it was perfect for James May, and they were celebrating Neil Armstrong and the other astronauts in the 60s, and the cars they drove leading up to the moon landings, etc. So it was quite a long segment, this, and many of the astronauts drove Corvettes, and that part was quite interesting. And James May was even given the opportunity to drive the actual Corvette that Neil Armstrong owned at the time, which you could see was an absolute thrill for him, and that was quite nice to see. So like I say, it was okay, this segment. There were certain aspects of it pretty interesting. It just didn't really feel like it fit into the Grand Tour, not like the ones they usually do. They've done them before, and Senna and all this kind of stuff, but it was alright. And then we come to Jeremy Clarkson doing one of his funny segments where he takes a car for a test drive himself, and it was a Citroen C3 today, the new one, and he went to test to see if, and I quote, if the Citroen C3 is faster than itself, is it easy to park? Can it pull a ship? Is it big enough for Angelina Jolie's children, as per the title? Is the boot big enough for a horse? And would it work for the French police? And would a Tunisian general be able to use it to invade Italy? Now, when you break all those things down, it's as mad as it sounds. He literally does see if he can get the car to go faster than it says in the book, sort of thing. Can he park it easily? Can it pull a ship? And he literally tries to pull a huge ship. Is it big enough for Angelina's children? Now, he doesn't actually use Angelina's children. He used half a dozen kids that represented her children to see if he could fit them all in the car. Could he get a horse in the boot? Well, do you think he could get a horse in the boot? And would it work for the French police? He drives around with a huge French moustache chasing some criminals, and he actually tries to cross the mountains from Tunisia to invade Italy. So he does all those things and tests them all out. As you can imagine, James May and Richard Hammond weren't particularly impressed with that. He even gets Lord Dyson to vac it out at the end. So even though it was funny, a lot of that stuff, it was way too staged for me, but it was quite amusing to watch. So I'm going to give this week's episode a 7.5 out of 10, which I think is the lowest score I've given an episode this season. I did have fun with it. It was entertaining, but I think it clearly is the weakest episode of season 3 so far. But still, I'm thoroughly enjoying this season. Season 3 is fantastic. Really looking forward to next week's episode, and I will of course be bringing you another review next week for episode 10. So thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next time on Screen Stars.